You're listening to the FairTax for All radio program, where we bring you everything and anything fair tax related. And now, your host, Alex Molesky.
Oh man, I want to chime in. I want to sing it. I want to harmonize with those guys, but man, I can speak sometimes. Sing. Leave me out of it, folks. Welcome to the FairTax for All radio show here, where our discussion is centered around income taxes, specifically the current U.S. income tax code. Our main goals are to educate and inform in order to eliminate the one and only IRS and our horrendous tax code. I want you to listen in this next hour, and I promise you that you'll be entertained, and you'll also learn something. Before I get too far into my shows, I'd like to give those of you new to the FairTax a brief intro, and also those of you that are a little bit experienced with it. It's like brushing your teeth. It's not a bad idea to get a refresher. The FairTax is a bill that eliminates the IRS and replaces the current tax code with a national sales tax of 23% on only new goods and new services. Nothing used. No more FICA taxes out of your paychecks. That's everybody who pays the FICA taxes, folks. The 23% sales tax collects those tax dollars needed to fund Medicare and Social Security, which make up your FICA taxes. The fair tax does not eliminate any government plans, just the collection method of taxation. In addition to replacing the income tax, the fair tax also provides each Social Security card holding person a monthly prebate check to cover the 23% sales tax up to the poverty level. This is not welfare. It is only to ensure we are not taxed on the necessities. The fair tax lowers the tax rate on every tax bracket and, at the same time, helps to address the issue of our unbelievably growing, unsustainable national debt. It is a tax plan that shrinks the size of government and puts every American in a better financial position. Don't take my word for it. Well, I'd like you to, but go to fairtaxcalculator.org. That's fairtaxcalculator.org. It is the eye-opening tool. Enter your own numbers. See if you'd be better off under the fair tax. I know the answer. Okay, last week, moving on here, on our show, I had my brother on to discuss the U.S. territories and the tax breaks the federal government gives businesses to relocate to the U.S. territories. Is it fair? I don't know. I also took on Bill O'Reilly. Well, not really. I took on a comment that he made on the fair tax, and I replied. It was a good show. And like all past shows, it is archived at Molesky.com. That's Meluskey. I'm going to get half of America to know how to spell my name eventually. It's going to be a fun one. But go there. I'll be talking about, the fair tax in the week to come, as I have been this past year. Plus advertising like crazy wherever I can about the highly anticipated movie Unfair, Eliminating the IRS. It's hitting theaters around the country on October 14th. You'll hear it during my show about the advertisements on it, and I encourage everybody to mark that date, Tuesday, October 14th. I can't stress it enough. Go to this movie. Make a difference. We need you out there. That's a great way. I tell you to call your congressman, call your senators. Go there. Go to the movie. Buy your ticket. You can go to Fandango. You can go to unfairmovie.com. Buy your ticket. Go to that movie, October 14th, 7 p.m. The numbers will prove to the government and the higher powers, I don't know their higher powers, but it'll prove to D.C. that we want change. It's a one-time showing, just that one night at about 700 theaters right now. I'm also going to be hosting an event at the AMC Desert Ridge Theaters in Scottsdale, and I'm hoping to have a big crowd out there and want you there with me. You can visit my website to find out more, and right now, actually, the next person that texts me at 609-575-8751, 609-575-8751. If you text me, I'll mail you some tickets, or you can meet up with me, and I'll get you your ticket there at the theater that night. And you can look, and it doesn't have to be a theater right here in this area. So the first text I get will be great. Let's move on from that, and I'll be talking about it, trust me. You'll be sick of hearing me talk about the IRS, but it'll be a lot better than me taking the fifth, right? Believe it or not, I think I might have found support for the fair tax from President Obama. I'm not kidding. You heard me correctly. Today, I also want to discuss wealth disparity based on the color of one's skin in the FairTax, and more importantly, how the FairTax is colorblind. I have a lot more to go over this weekend. I keep getting more information. It's fun. So listen in for the next hour and soak up some of this great FairTax information. And after the show, Dennis Prager will be on. That is Dennis Prager, the FairTax fan. So let's get started. I do want to start the show off with, I think it's going to be fun. I received a call at my home Wednesday morning at 6:53 a.m. I didn't get to the phone after it had, only rang once. Yippee-doo. And it went to voicemail, I guess, somehow. But I checked a half an hour later after my wife asked, who in the world was that calling? So I call her, ID'd it, and saw Washington, D.C. as the info. I called the number, and a woman with a strongly accented voice proceeded to tell me, she tried to pull a scam on me, basically. The easiest reason it was obvious that this is a scam is that the person answered the phone on the second ring. Anybody that's called the IRS knows that it goes through a phone queue and often takes, 10, 20, 30 minutes to reach anybody at all. I had a little bit of fun with them, but I stopped once I figured out that it was obviously a scam. And I didn't want to go too much into it on them because I figured I'd save the time and have a little bit of fun with you here today, share with you. Scammers disgust me, folks. They prey on the vulnerable. These criminals just tried to prey on the wrong guy that day. Jeremy, I have a question for you, man. I'm not a question, but I have a request. I did hone into the voicemail. Do me a favor and just play the voicemail. Do you have it from yesterday to my house? It's funny. We don't have to play the whole thing, but start it, buddy.
You got it. Here it is.
Hello, this message is intended to K. Bergen. My name is Alan Cooper, calling you from the Legal Tax Audit Department of Internal Revenue Services. The nature of my voicemail is just to inform you that we had received a legal petition notice against your name and your social security number. The case I'm concerning to you, it's too much important and serious matter to you. So please don't take it in a light or an easy way. Otherwise, you will be in trouble. I'm not threatening you. I'm just informing you. Please note down. So
we can stop it, Jeremy. That's just too funny. That was Alan Cooper. He sounds like an Alan Cooper, doesn't he? I don't know. Do not take this in the light way. Okay, I don't know. Just interesting choice of words Alan Cooper made, but I thought it was pretty funny. I'm going to call the number. Maybe I'll ask for Alan Cooper. I don't know. But Jeremy, feel free if you want to join along, play along, and pretend you're my son. I'm pretending that you were my son just in case you want to jump in here at any time, but I'll hopefully feed you some stuff. But let's make fun of these guys. And the number to dial, Jeremy, is I'm reading it out loud, folks, 202-864-1210. And I'm going to post this up on my website, 202-864-1210. I'm telling you the number, folks, because at your leisure, you can have some fun, too, and give them a buzz, because I hate this stuff. Let's do it. I'm changing our last name, Jeremy. We're the Wilson family.
Wilson family, go. Here we go.
Yeah. Uh-uh. Did they already shut down the number?
Thank you for calling Internal Revenue Service. This is Officer Kevin Jones. How may I help you?
I'm sorry, this is Kevin Jones?
Yeah, Kevin Jones.
Yes, hello, Officer Jones. My name is Alex Wilson. My son Jeremy said he got a call from a number and they told him he owed money on our taxes or something like that. He freaked out and he hung up because the caller scared him. I have him with me now since I'm not really sure what's going on. Jeremy, I'm one of your imaginists. You better not be on drugs, kid.
No, I just somebody called. I just want to make sure everything's cleared, and I just don't want to get in any trouble.
What's your last name, please?
Wilson, Alex Wilson. And I think the name I heard, my son said was like an Alan Cooper or something that called.
Alan Cooper. All right, he is one of my associates working with the Internal Revenue Service. So could you please help me with your last name, Wilson, right?
Correct.
Could you please hold on so that I can find the records?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
And you're sure that was his name? Jeremy? Well, he said it's somebody who works with him, so we'll see. No, I have nothing better to do and hang online, do I? Jeremy, you busy today, man?
It has been a busy day. It's been a busy week with the event and everything. It has been busy.
Oh, yeah. I went to an event last night, son. Actually, it was a really good one. I can tell you about it while I'm on hold with this place. Went to see... I'm sorry, yes?
Sir. Thank you for holding a line, sir. Yeah. Mr. Alex, the reason
Yes.
why I received the call is because there has been a lawsuit been filed by the Internal Revenue Service for the tax evasion. So do you have a criminal attorney who can represent you into the courthouse? And can I have his information, please?
Why would you need that?
There has been a criminal lawsuit filed under your name, sir. There has been a criminal lawsuit
A
filed.
criminal lawsuit? And then what are the allegations?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I'm just sorry. What are the allegations? I mean, I'm certain we have everything in order. Can you tell me what year is this relating to?
I'm sorry?
What year are they saying that I've...
We have made an audit in the year of 2008 to 2012. We found a deficiency in your income tax. You are owing $2,185.
$2,185?
Yeah,
Well, normally if I'm deficient or something, they would send me a letter. I mean, how can I fix this? Can I have my son work it off or something?
Look, sir, we have tried to notify you twice about it in the September 2013 and in December 2013. We have made an attempt to send the paperwork at your mailing address, but no one was available at your mailing address, and the documentation were returned back to the IRS headquarters.
Well, which address are you using? I'm sorry. Which address are you using?
All right. So first of all, you need to just tell me that call was received from which number? Like on which number you got a call from us? Your number, please. I just need your number on which you got a call from one of my associates.
My number?
Yeah.
480.
You got a voicemail.
Yeah. 480 268 325. I think it was 32. Jeremy, which number was it? Hey, you know what? Let me get my information together and I'll call you right back. How's that sound?
I'm sorry, could you please give me...
I don't know which number we called from. I'm going to call you right back, Officer. Jones, Kevin Jones, I wrote that down. Thank you so much. I'm going to call you right back. Jeremy, let's hang up. I got to call him back. I got to get stuff together.
We're clear now, 20 seconds.
We got to go to break right now, don't we, Jeremy? Yeah, I hear the music. Folks, stay tuned. I'll try to wrap this up in a second. I want to call them back because I had a couple funny things I wanted to say. We'll be right back after these messages, folks. Welcome back to the Fair Tax for All radio show, where we talk about everything fair tax, centering on our calls today to the IRS, because I've received scam calls. So I'm actually not calling the IRS. I'm calling obvious scammers. I had to hang up because we had to go to break, so I pretended I had to get some information. Jeremy, give him a call back, would you?
The Wilsons are ready. I'm going to call them right now.
The Wilsons.
Being your son, will you take me to a baseball game or something? What's going on here? Football?
Are you going on air or are you keeping this private, this question?
This one is live for the people.
This one is live? I don't know, man. And I've got to give what's-his-name a little bit of a hard time, giving you a hard time in your accents. You're great, man. How could they? I almost called in the other day. Who was that? The Money Man?
Chad Show. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I'm like, man, don't mess with Jeremy. Jeremy's the man. You got that number, buddy?
You know what? It was busy the first time I called. I wonder if they're like trying to block us. I'm going to try right now.
Or they can only handle one call at a time. My associate. I love that.
Yeah, I'm just getting busy signal right now. We could try maybe next segment or something.
Yeah, maybe we'll. Anyway, folks, I might not get to it. So you know what? I'm just going to go past it. Bottom line is, I should tell you a few of them. I was about to get silly because I was going to give them my social security number, 409-52-2002. I was going to see what they came up with that one because, by the way, that's Elvis Presley's social security number. I was going to tell Jeremy to stop licking the phone. I was going to ask him if they knew Lois Lerner personally and where were they calling from. And anyway,
I had sound effects of a dog barking in the background that we could have used. So yeah, we had a bunch of stuff.
Dog barking, cats fighting. You know, I was going to. I was going to thank them for being on the show and sharing this conversation with thousands of my closest friends. But anyway, it was fun, a little immature, and I know I usually don't go that route on the show, but still fun because I despise criminals. I have to tell you, even as bad as a scam was the other day when it happened to me, I still had to take a moment to process it to make sure it really was a scam. It makes you nervous. Part of the reason is because I don't know if I'm breaking the law with the IRS half the time, and I know I'm not, but, like when you think you file everything correctly, I had to process it. And I studied the rules as a part of the show. And even I had an IRS scam segment a couple of months ago, and they still had me a little bit, when I first got the call. So I really hope I've helped you a little bit, but I want you to visit, believe it or not, irs.gov. If anything happens to you and you're not sure, you can always say, give me a number, I'll call you back. They get paperwork to you. They don't pull those fast things. The IRS has prominently posted on their website warnings on scammers and what to look for. To warn others of scams, I present the following facts. Once again, the IRS does not call or send letters about liens or tell you to send money unless you previously established terms with them. They do not assign attorney contacts with telephone numbers of addresses, nor rush you into phoning non-IRS numbers. They will not ask you for personal information on the phone, and they never provide scammers with personal information regarding identity. I mean, you don't. I'm sorry. I'm worked up a little bit. Anyway, as much as I just like the IRS, I give them kudos for what they have done, posting that on the website. They estimate 450,000 people will be contacted by these scammers this year in regards to IRS-type scams. You know what I'm going to say, but simple solution. If we had the FairTax, this scam couldn't happen. So that'd be one less things for prowlers to come after. I don't know. Jeremy, I want you to thank you for being such a good boy.
You got it, Father. No problem.
Father knows best. Anyway, what was I going to talk about next? I really don't know yet. I've got a bunch of things. I got my paper here, my paper clips. Oh, I was telling Jeremy, I started to say I was at a great event last night, United We Stand. It was a fun event. Were you there? Okay. I saw part of the team, saw, Tom, who else did I see? Diane. I saw Jim walking in. That was cool. I also ran into my buddy who was a guest the other week. Here's a picture of his book, folks. Dustin Romney, Rule of Law. He's very involved with the Convention of States project, but good read, and I had to get myself an extra copy right there because when I did the show and hosted him, he gave me the PDF copy to review. But I said, man, it's a good book. I got to get it on my shelves so people think I'm really smart. And it's not a hard read. It's a good read. It's signed. So anyway, I did want to talk about that. I also wanted to quickly mention, I was on the way to the show last night, and John Campbell was filling in the 3 to 6 slot. And he was taking calls about tax reform. And he was trying to answer about it, and I just have to correct him. Nice guy, really nice guy. At least he seems really nice. I haven't met him personally. Sometimes you need to get the gist from people, but in all due respect, I think he made some mistakes. Small one, the IRS was created in 1913, not 1911. More importantly, the statement of the income tax is, he mentioned it was in the Constitution. It's not in our founding fathers' Constitution, the original. So, I talk about it all the time on the show. The founding fathers believed we couldn't tax the sweat of a man's labor. Otherwise, we were just falling into the same pit that's happened throughout history. They had decided that if they hated to do it, but if we had to do it, taxes should be based on consumption only, such as a sales tax. So that's two, Congressman Campbell. Number three, the FairTax does eliminate the IRS via the repeal of the 16th Amendment because he thought, it wasn't going to happen. Maybe he was thinking of another fair taxation. I think he's more of a fan of the flat tax possibly. No, flat tax does not get rid of the 16th and everything just comes right back. Just give it time. The original IRS tax code was a flat tax, so no sale there, folks. Number 4, he mentioned the avoidance by vendors not charging sales tax to the end user. Vendors pay on sales. They don't pay on sales tax. They don't pay they pay on the total sales. That's what they got to pay. So there's no beneficiary for them to say, hey, I'm not going to charge you tax on that. They have to pay. If they sell $100 worth of goods, they owe that, the 22% sales tax. No matter what, if they don't charge you the sales tax, they're taking it off of their money. So they're not going to do that. They're going to lower the price for you. Well, that's up to you. But they're still going to owe on their total sales. So there's no evasion in that way. And that was the biggest underground economy, I think, fear that they have, and maybe my Congressman Schweikert has. And he said there will be no collection arm. Well, there will be a collection arm of the fair tax, just about 10% the size, because evasion will be so much smaller. They will police. They will go after you. If sales decline too much, they're going to know. I mean, I own a small business. Here's another part as far as evasion, and I've mentioned it before. I can avoid paying taxes right now legally under the current income tax code just by selling at cost to somebody. There's nothing illegal. I can sell and make no profit. If I make no profit, how much income tax am I paying? Voila. So there you go. I got to get on, I'm going to call him next time he's hosting. So good guy. I just think he might be a little bit uninformed on this one. And as a congressman, they have a lot to follow. But you know what? Maybe I'll have to give his office a buzz and talk to him about that. We're going to go to break right now. Jeremy, thanks for that segment. I think we might call them at the end of the show, but I have some other things to talk about. I want to talk about Ronald Reagan. I want to talk about Burger King. Burger King, home of the Whopper, with some Canadian bacon. Be right back, folks. Welcome back to the Fair Tax for All radio show. I'm your host, Alex Molesky, talking about the fair tax. So far, we've called those scammers that are pretending to be IRS agents, saying that I have a lawsuit against me. You're right. Also talked a little bit about the event last night, correcting John Campbell. And, I want to move on to one thing. I'm going to talk on a subject matter that might not seem at face value a fair tax matter, but I assure you it is. I had a grade school and Facebook friend, Jillian, bring this to me, this study to my attention. I'm not sure she had any idea I'd bring this to the fair tax world, but I'm doing so here now. I'm going to talk just a bit about income inequality. Did you know that the median wealth of a white household is 20 times that of a black household and 18 times that of a Hispanic household here in the United States? This is according to a Pew Research Center analysis of a newly available government data from 2009. These lopsided wealth ratios are the largest since the government began publishing such data a quarter century ago, and roughly twice the size of the ratios that have been prevailed between these three groups for the 2 decades prior to the Great Recession that ended in 2009. So the Pew Research analysis finds that in percentage terms, the bursting of the housing market bubble in 2006 and the recession that followed from late 2007 to mid 2009 took a far greater toll on the wealth of minorities than on whites. From 2005 to 9, inflation-adjusted median wealth fell by 66% among Hispanic households and 53% among black households, compared to just 16% amount among white households. That's amazing, folks. Crazy steep decline. And as a result of these declines, the typical black household had just under $6,000 in wealth. That's assets minus debts in 2009. The typical Hispanic household had just over $6,000, and the typical white household had over $100,000. I'm going to stop right here for a moment and let you know that in the last 25-year period, on record, from 84 to 2009, that 1985 was the lowest differential from, median wealth in white households versus the minorities here that I've talked about, at a 7-to-1 ratio versus the 21 today and 18-to-1 today. That's 7-to-1. That just doesn't seem right to me regardless. 7-to-1 is the best ratio that I could find in this study time started in 1984. I checked back using some Urban Institute numbers, and it looks like if you were born in the 30s or 40s versus the 60s or 70s, the wealth gap is much smaller. I would not hesitate to say that these numbers can be, in good part, be attributed to the lack of manufacturing jobs possibly in this country. I know some people out there say it's decline of the family nucleus in poor areas, of which maybe black families are a higher percentage of whole population than whites, which is adding to the wealth disparity. It's possible, but I'd say once again that manufacturing job losses could easily play a huge part in these numbers. Why? Why? In today's society, think about this. Kids are almost expected to go to college. I guess there are plenty of kids going into college that in 1970 wouldn't be going. You know, kids going today, they wouldn't be going in 1970. They had more choices in 1970, so you didn't have to go to college. So if you were not the college type for whatever reason, but you were a bright kid, you could get a very good, blue-collar paying job, good paying job. So now there isn't near as much blue-collar work available. So it's go to college if you can afford it. Think of the year. It was 1983, and manufacturing jobs have been on the decline for a while. And you have no interest in school, but right, young man, you graduate high school and can't get a manufacturing job since the auto plant has just started laying off people. So what do? Who knows? You've been guided up to think you might be able to get a job. You should be able to get a job. But I can see how this would set a bad slide in wealth disparity between groups possibly, and also break up strong family nucleus. My thoughts are partly speculative and it's partly just logical deduction. So my logical solution to this wealth disparity is to bring the fair tax into the fold. Why? Because it brings back manufacturing jobs, folks. When you go from the highest corporate tax rates in the world and companies leaving the U.S. soil to set up manufacturing overseas to a tax system where you now become the lowest corporate tax rates of 0%, you have companies running back, flooding back. Posturing position to get back into the U.S. to take advantage of the most modern infrastructure in the world, the greatest network of colleges, and the greatest natural resources. It's simple, folks. I know. I feel like when I'm talking about the fair tax, it's the use all special sauce or magic dust to fix it all. Well, folks, it's kind of a pixie dust in some way, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the fair tax is a fix-all for everything, but it really is so close to a perfect elixir to our grotesque abomination of a tax code. Consider it. Consider the fair tax will fix one more thing. In this case, I think it'll really help fix or greatly reduce the wealth inequality gap between whites, blacks, and Hispanics. We're going to go to break right now. When we get back, I'm going to talk about, one of those companies that could come back. A little inversion, maybe some Obama support for the fair tax. We'll be right back after these messages, folks. Welcome back to the Fair Tax for All radio show. I'm your host, Alex Molesky, and we're having a fun time talking about the fair tax. Just spoke about a little bit of income inequality in America and how I think the fair tax could definitely help it. The income inequality, in this case, between, people of different skin color. And the fair tax is colorblind. Mentioned that I was at an event last night, and I think it was a big success, or a ton of people. The United We Stand event. I don't know. No, that was 2 nights ago. Jeez, I lose track of time when there's weather and things are canceled. Other things are canceled. But Dinesh D'Souza, Sarah Palin, they were both great. Katie Pavlich from Fox News Network, an Arizona girl. Great event, fun event. Got to meet a lot of neat fair tax fans. So it was fun. Anyway, next subject. Hold the pickles, hold the lettuce. It's another special order, and it should upset us. Word is that Burger King, as we know, was in talks to buy the Canadian donut giant Tim Hortons to pull off tax inversion. Basically, we're going to see the home of the Whopper move to Canada. It's not a done deal yet, but they're doing it to avoid corporate tax rates in the U.S. It's estimated their tax savings will be about 13%, or in monetary terms, billions of dollars that won't make it to the U.S. tax base. I have talked about inversion here on the show quite a bit recently. It's because there's been a surge in the U.S. These big corporations with lots of cash can buy up or merge with other companies and save tax money by moving nothing at all but their corporate address. I don't like it, but it makes sense to me. I don't like it, but I don't call it un-American. I don't call it un-American either. Un-American is unfair burdens of taxes in this country, not people trying to use the tax code to their advantage because they can, because it's legal. I hate tax loopholes. I hate corporate favors, but most of all, I hate the horrific tax code that we have. It is so convoluted. And it's also so high in corporate rates that it's ridiculous to think in this modern age of communication and transportation why any major corporation, any small business, unless they had a storefront, would have to be based in the U.S. to succeed. Why would you? Go to the lower tax rate. Do everything online. Something that kind of annoys me about the Burger King deal is that American billionaire investment guru Warren Buffett is helping to fund this inversion. Jeremy's going to play this clip right now, and I want you to listen in to the CNN clip I pulled from CNN Money with Warren Buffett. Listen to this.
When you think of Burger King or Warren Buffett, you think America.
Have it your way at Burger King.
But now, the iconic American brand and investor are teaming up to relocate the fast food chain outside of the United States. Here's the deal. Burger King announced it's buying Canadian donut house Tim Hortons and moving the combined company headquarters north of the border. That creates an opportunity for the company to write off some of its U.S. corporate taxes and avoid paying U.S. taxes on earnings abroad. Buffett, one of the most patriotic businessmen in the country, has been highly critical of loopholes in the tax code for individuals, saying the wealthy should pay more.
I think we should raise taxes on the very rich.
So is he now helping Burger King potentially avoid U.S. taxes? Burger King is the most recent and biggest brand name company to attempt moving its headquarters. In April, Warren Buffett commented directly on this practice, known as an inversion.
It's just gotten way out of hand because tax rates are so low in certain countries. It's a crazy situation, but it's developed over the years, and that part of the tax code is really going to have to get looked at hard at some point.
The U.S. is often criticized for having one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world, but companies often find ways to offset their bills to the government. Just to put this into context, last year corporate taxes were 1.6% of GDP, less than half of what they were 50 years ago. Burger King's own executives say the deal classifies as an inversion, but they also say it won't shrink their tax bill. With many Americans still feeling the sting of the recession, it's no surprise this is a political issue.
It's not fair. It's not right. The lost revenue to Treasury means it's got to be made up somewhere, and that typically is going to be a bunch of hardworking Americans.
But before we get too patriotic, it's important to remember, while Burger King may be an American brand, it has locations in 98 countries. Its international growth is key. And a Brazilian investment firm owns most of the company. Christina Alessi, CNN Money, New York.
Well, Mr. Buffett, when are we going to look at it? When are we going to look at the tax code? He says it needs to be done. Yeah, call for it now. Hope you'll go see the IRS movie on the 14th. It's time to change the code. Simplify and get rid of the tax favors. Even Warren Buffett, as you heard, admitted there needed to be a fix in the last Atlas clip. Don't change the code, and you'll see more and more major corporations leaving the U.S. for greener dollar pastures, folks. How many more? I don't have the answer. But listen to this. In 2012, we had the most inversion money leaving the U.S. in history, just 2 years ago. In 2014, this year already, and we're only just in September, has 4 times that amount pending departure. That's nuts. That is nuts. That's a dangerous trend, especially with this current tax code, because as you heard the president say in that clip, if we lose the tax money there, we're going to have to make it up somewhere else. So who's going to get taxed more? The people. We get taxed anyway. I've talked about that on the FairTax anyway. It doesn't go through corporations. They just pass it on to us. Easiest and best fix is the FairTax. The FairTax will keep these companies put in the U.S. if we enact it. They will have no interest in leaving, and many of them, if not all, will come back. In a recent Washington Post op-ed, Treasury Secretary Jack Lew urged Congress to pass legislation the administration has been proposing that would overhaul the corporate tax code to make inversions less appealing. Mr. Treasury Secretary, I have the perfect solution. House Resolution 25, Senate 122 bill. Fair tax is your answer. That'll simplify it. Please consider it. It's not a right, it's not a left issue. It's the correct issue, the correct solution to this problem. Inversion, as you probably heard in the last clip, I don't know, has the attention of the president. You heard him in the last clip. He knows inversion is hurting us. The president told CNBC's Steve Leisman in late July that inversions undermine people's confidence in how companies are thinking about their responsibilities to the country as a whole. During this interview, the president also talked about lowering corporate tax rates and closing loopholes. Closing loopholes, nice. It's something I didn't really expect to hear from any president, or this president. It seems like we haven't really heard it from any president in a long time, if at all. I do want to play a clip from this interview with President Obama talking about. So, Jeremy, play that clip. This is important to hear, folks.
In your sixth year in office here, Democrats seem to support corporate tax reform and Republicans seem to support it. Why isn't there corporate tax reform? Your critics suggest that you have not put the presidential muscle behind this issue, certainly the way you did health care or the way you did stimulus early on in your presidency.
Well, we've reached out repeatedly to both Democrats and Republicans, and our argument is simple. If we lower corporate tax rates and close loopholes, there's going to be more certainty in terms of what corporations pay. They will benefit from a lower but more certain tax rate. It also allows us then to close some of the loopholes that permit companies to artificially shift profits overseas so that they're avoiding tax compliance. It would allow us potentially to have companies who have profits overseas to start bringing some of those profits back and reinvesting them in the United States. So there's a whole bunch of good reasons why we should do it. I'll be honest with you, Steve. The reason it's not getting done right now is that Congress, you may have noticed, is just not real productive. And they have trouble getting stuff done right now, even when they say they want to do something. And we will continue to push. And I've said to the Speaker, I've said to Majority Leader Reid, that we are prepared and we have put forward very specific proposals in terms of how we can get this done. So we're eager to make it happen. Invariably, it takes some time to work through a big tax reform piece of legislation. When Ronald Reagan last did it back in 86, 87, it was about a year and a half long process. So now's the time for us to get started, and I think that people should expect that this administration will be foursquare behind it, as long as the goal of tax reform is to simplify the system, make it fair, as opposed to simply slashing corporate rates while maintaining a bunch of loopholes that aren't productive and aren't creating jobs and value here in America.
Okay. Nice, huh? I know some of you listening might think it's just hot air, but I disagree. Listen, most analysts figure real tax reform won't happen unless the House, Senate, and Oval Office are all in alliance. We know it's not always the case, but even if it is, the president is giving a voice from the Oval Office encouraging tax reform. So hear me out while I kind of tell you a little bit. He specifically leads us by mentioning reduction of corporate taxes, reduction of loopholes, bringing companies back, and simplifying the tax code. And get this, he said, all the while, make it fair. I'm sorry, this is a fair tax. Sounds like one I know, buddy. Anyway, this is important, folks. You can call it whatever you want. Haters will say it's hot air. Fans will say it's real talk. Regardless of where you stand in politics, the fair tax cares not who our president is. But this president is bringing tax reform talk that sounds a whole lot like the fair tax to the discussion table in the Oval Office, and that we can celebrate. At the very least, this helps set the aforementioned table up for whomever is a successor at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Sometimes you need a good setup man. I don't think Willie Mays would have had nearly as many of those home runs and that batting average and everything if there wasn't a man named Willie McCovey right next to him in the lineup. You know what I mean, Jeremy? You have protection, or you have the setup, and there you go.
Have to be protected in that lineup.
like volleyball, setup man. So you know what? Kudos to him for that. You know, I know a lot of our listeners right here probably aren't fans of Obama. Actually, I know a lot of people that voted for him the first time around that aren't fans of them right now. But somebody's talking to him. Somebody's seeing a problem. Somebody's bringing something up. Got a few minutes left in the show. What the heck do I want to talk about? You know what? I do want to bring up one quick thing. I had funny IRS stories. I always had them on the side for emergency, but there's just so much to always go over, and I have other things I need to go over next week. This is a little bit of a side note. I keep seeing in articles and media posts about how great Ronald Reagan was, and Ronald Reagan this and Ronald Reagan that. I was only a teenager when he became president, and I liked Ronald Reagan when he was president, and I liked his demeanor. I like his demeanor now more than ever in hindsight. What a just great package of a man. Just had his stuff together. I think for me and many others, it was how he held the office. He had class. He was firm without being nasty. A beloved figure you knew you could count on. I get it why many are reaching out to the memory of Ronald Reagan. Many people feel our leadership is lacking in D.C. Leadership in our representatives, in the Oval Office. And I also believe some of you might be like me. You have a lack of faith in your fellow voters. But I have a question for you. At home, at work, in the car, do you really think we should be asking ourselves, what would Ronald Reagan do? Or should we be asking ourselves, what are we going to do? And then do it. Much, much respect to Ronald Reagan. But it's time we, the people, live up to our front and center billing given to us by our founding fathers. Don't put it on Reagan. He did his part. He helped reteach us and guide us in a way that not many presidents do. Take action, take lessons learned from great men like Ronald Reagan, but act as the individual given those free liberties to secure justice for yourself and all around you. I want to thank you all for tuning into the show this week. Had a great time. Had fun at that event the other night. That was a great event. I hope you enjoyed the show. You know you can catch up. If there's something you missed, I'll have all the video clips from the show, adding pictures and everything, and I put it up at Molesky.com. You can also go to Facebook and check in FTFA Radio, Fair Tax for All Radio, and communicate with me a little bit. Get involved with the Fair Tax. Thank you all for listening. My son Jeremy Wilson in the booth. Thank you.
You cracked me up with that.
Folks, we'll be back next week. More Fair Tax for All. Have a great rest of your weekend. Take care.